Good morning, everybody. Mark Finan here in the home weather office on this Tuesday morning. It is now the 21st day of January 2025, and this is the morning briefing. For those of you coming to the morning briefing hoping to see my pretty face, well, you're going to have to wait a little while. My face is not presentable right now. As I mentioned yesterday, kind of a public service announcement for you. If you notice something that doesn't look quite right on your skin, see a dermatologist right away. The longer you wait, the worse things are going to be. Yeah, I am not presentable right now. Let's get on to the weather. Well, we do have wind in Southern California today, gusty winds and fire danger. We also have the brilliant snow going on the Gulf Coast this morning. The pictures out of Louisiana and Mississippi are just amazing. I mean, snowing in Mobile, Alabama, that's just amazing. I'm going to focus on Northern California because our focus is we need rain, we need snow. It has been not a great month. Let's start with how this month has gone for downtown Sacramento. This is the climate summary so far for the month. These are the high temperatures. These are the low temperatures. This is the average. And then this column is the rain. And as you can see, our rain total right now is 0.30 in a month when we average around 4. Now, it is unlikely that we are going to see measurable rain for the rest of this month. And if we do, it would be something around the 100ths range. So we're really probably not going to budge much off that 0.30, which would put us in the range of the 5th driest January on record for downtown Sacramento. The driest we've ever had? 0.01. We did that back in 2015. And I remember 2014, excuse me, when I look at the record book, number 4 on the list, 0.20, 2014. So that was back in our big drought we had about 10 years ago, 2014, 2015, 2 very dry years. So while we're not really in a drought, we are just kind of hurting for the month of January. And the other thing to note here are the high temperatures. Ever since we had our last rain on the 3rd, we have been seeing mild afternoons, some in the mid to upper 60s. Lately, more low 60s with cooler overnights. These overnight lows down in the mid 30s. A lot of frost in the foothills and other spots. And as we head toward the weekend, it is actually going to get even colder. The daytime highs are going to stay in the 50s. The overnight lows are going to be staying in the 30s. So we need rain, but yeah, we also need snow. So for that, let's go to the Central Sierra Snow Lab. And this is a graph that I love to show. Last week, I was showing you the graph for the 8-station index, and the next day I showed the 5-station index. Well, this is another variation on that sort of thing. This goes from October 1st into the summer months, and this is how the blue line, the dark blue line here, is how the season goes on average, if you will. And then these are boundaries showing percentiles of the median, and the red line is our current. So as we've been going through December and January at the Central Sierra Snow Lab, which is, let's say, at Soda Springs on Interstate 80, we were well above average. But once we get to this flat line starting on the 3rd, well, we just kind of leveled off, and then average caught up with us. We were well above average. We were at, if you look at the numbers up in here as I go over it, here we were at 150 accumulated inches of snow when the average was roughly 115. Well, we're still at 150. Well, now the average is, if I go to 160, there we go. So that's as of yesterday, 160. So now we're actually technically below average. And as we go toward the end of the month, we go toward January 30th, then we're up to 180. We're still going to be at 150. And then by the time we get to the end of, well, middle of February, then the average is 213, and who knows where we'll be then, because I do think that by the middle of February, we should be getting back into some rain and snow. But as you can see, every day that goes by, average keeps getting higher, and right now we have been staying the same. All right, so I've made the case saying we need rain and snow. When is that going to happen? Let's take a look at the 500 millibar chart and show you what is happening right now. Big ridge here, big trough to our east, and the cold air in the eastern part of the country, the big ridge here in the west. We are going to see a change in the pattern over the weekend. The models are kind of going back and forth on this, but the next couple of days we continue with the offshore flow here. As you can see, the wind's coming down in this direction. Big high. But there is going to be a low crashing down from the north over the weekend that will bring in the colder air that I'll show you in a minute. And for the Sierra, there is even going to be the chance of some light snow perhaps that I'll show you. But for those of you that are skiers and snowboarders, I wouldn't get too excited about it. Again, I'll show you that here in a second. But this is going to be a pattern change to make it breezy and cooler. Look at how the flow comes down from the interior of Canada and then down into California. And the cold air in the middle part of the country certainly modifies, and this should be about Sunday, I would think. This is Saturday. Let me go to Sunday. Deep trough here and much more mild air across the rest of the country. So on Sunday, there's a football game in Kansas City. There's a football game in Philadelphia. And it looks as though those games are not going to be as cold as what we were seeing in the games last week. So this pattern is relatively dry, breezy, and cool for California. And then, yeah, that stays, and we keep this big ridging pattern going on. Now, as we go out into Fantasyland, it does look as though the pattern is going to slowly modify. This pattern here, I think this is the 2nd. Yeah, this is February 2nd. Little trough goes by to maybe bring us a chance of showers. And then in here, to me, this pattern starts to look a little bit better. Instead of having the big high up here, instead the high has basically been squashed. And that's why I'm going to be optimistic right now and hope that somewhere around maybe the 7th to the 14th of February, we start to see a pattern change that gets us into some active weather. We'll see how that plays out in the extended models. But I do have a feeling that the pattern we have right now that I'm going back to here of the big ridge centered off the coast will begin to break down, and we'll start to see more onshore flow, more zonal flow as we get into the month of February. But here we are on the 21st of January, and we still have a lot of dry weather to go. All right, let's take a look at the GFS to see what's going to happen. This is the 12Z run, which isn't completely in just yet, but it'll be in far enough. All right, so the next few days, pretty mild. This is getting into Thursday. This is Friday, more of the same. A cool morning, a nice afternoon. But then things will begin to change over the weekend. This is Saturday. Here's how that deep low begins to come our way as reflected at the surface. Here's the chance of some light snow in the Sierra and a tightening pressure gradient, which means we'll have some north wind, especially in the north end of the valley from Sacramento to the north, as well as downslope winds along the west slope. This is Saturday afternoon. So Saturday turning breezy and cooler with the chance of maybe a couple of inches of snow in the high Sierra. And maybe, I'm kind of skeptical about what we might see here, but maybe some beneficial rain for Southern California. We'll see how that plays out. But then once that goes by, as you can see, we are dry. This is getting into next Tuesday, so a week from now. And let me just slide this over so we can look at total precip accumulation. So I'll start with total snow accumulation. This model, the GFS, is showing maybe a couple of inches of snow. Nothing really to get too excited about. And then total precip accumulation, as you can see, it shows nothing for the valley, but it does show about 1/3 of an inch of rain for Southern California. Again, we'll see how that plays out. All right, but I also want to focus on the fact that it's going to get quite a bit colder. I showed you all the daytime highs in the 60s we've been seeing. So this is I've skipped ahead to Wednesday actually. The temperatures aloft at 5,000 feet are around plus 12, plus 13. That is pretty warm for this time of year, and you notice the winds again from the north. But watch what happens as we get into, Thursday, Friday, both very mild days. Then into the weekend, cold air comes crashing in. And so our 5,000 foot temperatures are down to plus 2 or plus 3. So we've seen a 20-degree drop. Down on the surface, that'll mean more like a 10-degree drop. So instead of seeing daytime highs in the low to mid-60s, we could see daytime highs more like in the mid-50s. You'll see a bigger change in the high Sierra, where daytime highs will likely be staying below freezing. So if you are planning on being in the mountains this weekend, there may be some light snow, and it'll be noticeably cooler and somewhat windier, and that colder air will stick around for a while. Boy, this is really cold on Sunday morning. The zero line is all the way down to the coast, and the temperatures in Plumas County at 5,000 feet are already down to -6, -7. So some very cold air along the crest of the Sierra and onto the east side. So it is going to get colder, but unfortunately, it isn't going to get wet anytime soon. This is the GFS, the 12Z GFS, taking us to the end of the month. And as you can see, up and down the valley, there is no precipitation. Keep your fingers crossed that maybe we could get some light beneficial rains in Southern California. And before you jump up and down and say, wait, they're getting a rain in Southern California, that means mudslides. Well, a quarter of an inch of rain or a third of an inch of rain shouldn't be enough to do that. But we'll keep an eye on that. That's everything I have for you this morning. Make it a great day. I'll talk with you later.